Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Victoria. Tundu, MQ Abiola.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Great, thank you.
Yes, let's start the review with this day. Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Ortom Undecided about support for Atiku. Once Wike placated. 6 meeting between PDP candidate, Rivers Governor. Real reasons Wike lost out on VP nominations. Fayose explains why Wike won't support former vice president. Yes, straight from the morning show to the lead story of a number of newspapers. Yes, Samuel Ortom, the governor of Rivers, of Benue State, sounding like his friend, the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, yesterday, and he was literally spitting fire. Fortunately, he wasn't close by. He was speaking all the way from Makurdi, thanks to technology. Now, other newspapers are picking on this. The Guardian newspaper, Rumpus in PDP over calls for IU's removal, Wike's shabby treatment. I remain PDP's national chairman. IU insists PDP stakeholders disagree on calls for IU's resignation. 11 governors absent from Osun Campaign Council's inauguration. Fayose tacitly declared support for Southern President. Atiku insulted Wike by sending emissaries, says Ortom. Lamido, PDP made Wike must save him from his anger. Yes, the Punch newspaper, Wike Okowa's camp clash as Ortom Fayose threatened Atiku's bid. Picking Okowa undemocratic. Only God can tell me to support Atiku Ortom. Atiku should reach out to Wike, Rivers PDP. No going back on Okowa, says aide. Fayose demands Southern presidency, says PDP constitution backs power rotation. Yes, the Daily Sun cracks in PDP widens, Wike, Ugwany, Ikpeazu, Ortom, Makinde, others absent at Osun Campaign Council inauguration. God hasn't told me to support Atiku, says Benue Governor. Next president must be Southerner. Fayose, Daily Independent, PDP in crisis as governors take back seat in party's activity. Now, that story, yes, from Samuel Ortom's interview, clearly all is not well with the PDP because Nyesom Wike, the defeated presidential aspirant, the sideline vice presidential candidate, he did not get anything. But he will not be the first person to suffer that kind of fate. Of course, he can easily consult, but in Port Harcourt, Dr. Peter Odili, who wanted to be president, he did not get that. Of course, he was almost getting the vice presidential slot. Of course, in the last minute, it was snatched from his jaws. So, something familiar there. But he did not pull down the party. Peter Odili, gentleman, took it in his stride and is still there calmly. But, of course, you cannot spank a child and ask that child not to cry. Nyesom Wike did so much for the party, but got nothing from the convention and the fallout of the convention. So, you expect him to be sitting with anger. But again, good party men, they call themselves together, pull themselves together, and they move on with the business of the general election that is confronting the PDP. Because after all this hue and cry, if PDP is not in the federal government, there's nothing to share. There's nothing to hustle about. So perhaps reason should prevail. But again, it makes sense that Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of PDP, should reach out to the man he narrowly defeated. But for that tumble by Tambuwa, perhaps it would have been very difficult for Atiku Abubakar to upset the train that was Unyenso Wike at the convention. But again, that is politics. Reach out to him, iron out your differences, placate those who should be placated, and the party will move on. Yes, let's look at other stories. The Vanguard newspaper, insecurity, ex-servicemen upbeat over Army's recall plan. Engagement of retired personnel already ongoing, says ex-Army PR boss. Army dismisses alleged plans by soldiers to storm Abuja over poor welfare equipment. Says troops have never had it so good in combat equipment logistics to fight. Yes, this move to bring in retired servicemen, I think that will be a welcome development in the face of the widespread insecurity, the battle the army is fighting all over the country, overstretched as it were. Bringing ex-servicemen will be a good development. Now, if we just look at one foreign newspaper quickly, the Times of London. Troops surge to defend NATO's east from Putin. Britain and US also sending ships and aircraft. Britain, US, and Germany have committed more troops to defend NATO's eastern flank. They did that yesterday at the NATO meeting in Spain. Now, the unintended consequence of Putin's aggression, trying to stop NATO spread, but NATO will be at his backyard right there with more troops, more weapons. Sweden and Finland joining NATO. Will Putin be regretting his actions?
Possibly, and the EU.
Ruben Rufai and Tundu.
The EU is also expanding.
Yes.
But what is so ironic here is that the whole war, I don't want to use the euphemism that Putin calls it, the special, what is it called? A special operation.
Special operation.
Yeah, it's a war on Ukraine, was because of Ukraine flirting with joining NATO. But now they're not even being considered for NATO. They've been dropped entirely because now they're a country under occupation. That is the cruelest irony of all. It's so sad. They were just used, and we've said that from the start, weren't we? NATO had no real intention of having Ukraine join them. So why were they sort of dangled like bait before the monster that is Vladimir Putin? It's just, I feel desperately sorry for that country.
And now once upon neutral Sweden, neutral Finland, are not part of NATO.
Yes.
Was it a game planned?
Okay.
It looks like it might have been.
No, because when you look at it historically, I think Finland has learnt its lesson. And Sweden, too, will not just sit taking everything like that because of the proximity of Russia. So they need to bolster themselves.
And now you're going to have U.S. troops stationed in Poland permanently.
Permanently. But, and that's why I think the formative lesson here is nations should learn to keep things that give them power with them.
Nuclear disarmament.
If Ukraine had not, left or surrendered its nuclear weapons, today NATO will want Ukraine.
Huge mistake.
Because Ukraine has one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world.
Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. Perhaps.
Yeah, if they had their
Russia would have invaded Ukraine.
Well, look at Libya. They learned it.
So it's best to keep those things there. And that's why you see a certain country called North Korea is very relevant today because of what they have. So it's best, we want to go away from the world of
nuclear proliferation is not a welcome development.
Yeah, but the truth has to be said. It's not a welcome development. We want a better world, the Gorbachev and Reagan world where people were disarming. But as long as you have people like Putin in the world, you cannot push away that threat. Look at what Putin has done. Putin has stopped any agreement reached on climate change. Germany now wants to bring coal to produce power because Putin is cutting gas. Putin has changed the world. Putin has ended COVID overnight. COVID still exists.
Don't forget, millions are sliding into poverty because of
Putin.
Horrible.
There are protests everywhere in the world because of Putin. So once you still have people like Putin around, definitely you want to be careful. And are there still people like Putin around?
Of
yes.
course.
There are people like Putin in the frame of Viktor Orban. So we need to be careful.
South Africa also gave up their nukes.
Yes, they did.
But I think that the bigger challenge
Never
that
did
the
that.
world faces at this moment is, as has been defined by Sir Patrick Sanders, General Sanders, the head of the of Britain's armed forces. Yeah. He says it looks like we're back at the 1937 moment, leading up to the Second World War. Yeah. So are we at that moment right now? Is there the likelihood, the possibility of a third world war? NATO recently held a meeting in Madrid. And the outcome of that meeting was the agreement to ramp up military presence
and the troop surge
as a deterrent. Now the plan is to take the presence from 40,000 troops, to 300,000. Already the UK and the US have pledged 300,000 soldiers to be stationed along that eastern corridor. And then, of course, Putin. Putin does not even appear to be intimidated. And what they are trying to do to Putin is to put him under pressure. But would that pressure work?
No.
This latest development has come after the continued assault on Kiev and other parts of Ukraine. The other day, Putin sent his troops to go and bomb a shopping mall in Kerenshok, resulting in the death of so many people. This was a mall at the time of the attack had about 1,000 people.
Awful.
But can they afford it? Even Boris Johnson is already having issues with his own ministers who are saying that, look, we can't increase defense spending. If we do that, we will just further increase inflation, which Andrew Bailey of the Bank of England is saying, well, we don't have an option. By the time the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of England meets in August, inflation will still have to go up. Interest rates will have to go up by 15 percentage basis points. So you see, the world is at the edge of a precipice. At what point will they pull back? Will Putin listen? Everybody, every major business, Cisco, even McDonald's, right?
Everybody's pulled out of Russia.
Everybody is pulling out of Russia. They've stopped, they've shut Russia out of the international financial payment system, right?
Swift.
They've pushed Russia into default, but Russia is still standing firm.
Yes.
Confirming the assumption that sanctions don't always work.
But don't
they
also
don't.
forget that
They don't.
Putin is making $1 billion a day from oil sales.
And I also want to say,
discounted
you're
oil.
asking a question about whether we're back in World War II.
1937.
Yes, because America is stationed in Poland. We remember how World War II started. We are back there. I was watching something the other day about a documentary about Winston Churchill, and they featured the Iron Curtain speech. Has an Iron Curtain not descended across Europe as we are speaking right now?
The Iron Curtain is back.
100%. So this is what is a tragedy. Human nature is so pathetic
And the
sometimes.
truth is, I mean, just to enunciate the fact you made, Dr. Bata, we're back to 1937. When you even look at the historical antecedents, everything is back. Look at the First World War. We had the Spanish flu.
And now you have COVID.
Petering out, you have COVID, then this is starting. Then even look at the grand implications. I think it was Thucydides that was talking about the Peloponnesian Wars and was talking about the contestation between nation states. What started the First World War? Hitler, Germany rising.
No, that's World War II.
I mean, World War II, Hitler, Germany rising, and other nations in the world. And how did it start? He started by annexing areas close to him. Sudetenland. After annexing Sudetenland, and everybody now did what was done, what Clement Attlee did to, what's it called then?
What Neville Chamberlain?
I mean, Neville Chamberlain did to Hitler, appeasing him, telling him, oh, please, don't worry, let's make peace and all of that. But that didn't work. And that's why when Ben Wallace, the defense secretary in Britain, said, you can't keep appeasing Putin, everybody cried foul until Putin attacked. And guess what happened? From there, Hitler started to gain more ground, started to conquer more areas, and there was a war because they left him to go this way. So we're at that moment all over again. And we saw the reverberating implications around the world. Europe is already decimated with high inflation rates now, and we are going there because the contestation is the change of guards between the West, the world order as it is after Bretton Woods, And the new world order that the likes of China and Russia wants to dominate. And when you look at the economic indices, it's tilting towards the east. Putin is still selling his oil to these people in the east because it's easier for them to sell.
They've got the economic power. They're buying his oil. They're buying his oil. It's cheap.
Look at G7.
It's discounted.
Look at G7. G7 is reeling. I mean, when you benchmark the economies of the G7 with nations like the BRIC that Russia is part of, you can see the great economic disparity, that economic power is more with the BRIC nations. So it is a contestation of idea, and like Thucydides talked a lot about the Peloponnesian Wars, it is, once again, something called the Thucydides trap. And we need to be careful, because we are slipping into it. And NATO is not doing enough.
We just never evolve as a human race.
The United Nations,
we just don't evolve.
Which was the structure that emerged.
And we had the League of Nations also.
We had the League of Nations that failed.
We are hoping that certain forces, of reason, will sustain a balance or maintain a balance so that the world does not tip over. Because in the event of a third world war, the cost will be imaginable.
Oh, now they have nukes.
In human times,
oh my Lord.
In humanitarian terms, some countries have enough capability to remove certain countries off the surface of the earth.
Absolutely.
By just one strike. I hope it doesn't get to that point.
Well, let's hope so.
I wanted to draw your attention.
Yes, Ruben.
Before you go to a story in the papers today that the Senate yesterday confirmed the 7 minister designates sent to it by President Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, all 7 are sailed through. There was no rigor that we recommended. In fact, about 3 or 4 of them who had been legislators at local level were asked to take a deep bow and go. We had said, look, people should not be asked to take a bow. We should at least have a process and just be sure that these are persons who can add value. One of the, Senate members was making the point that, one of the nominees has served as a commissioner and he did well as a commissioner. Is he going to Abuja to be a commissioner? And then, of course, we had asked also that portfolios should be attached.
Yes, I think that is key. That is key.
Yeah, that did not happen.
Because in the absence of portfolio, you will just be asking bland questions. What will you do about ASU and all that?
If I'm creating a situation, which I noted, whereby one of the nominees took it upon himself to give himself a portfolio. Because he was saying that, look, if he was made the Minister of Labor and Employment, he will resolve the matter of ASU in a matter of weeks. He had already announced the portfolio that he thinks he deserves.
Yes, so because Emeka Majuba left, he was the Minister of State for Education, so maybe he will just go there.
No, he chose Minister of Labor and Employment, whatever. That's the one he has.
He wants to push Ngigewe. He wants to push Ngigewe. Ngige will not take that lightly.
So I hope that anyway, this phase of it, having been done with, that the president will use this opportunity to move around some of his ministers as the administration goes into its last stretch. Finally, the Senate has expressed solidarity with the Ekweremadus. Members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs were told we'll be leaving for London, I guess tomorrow, to go and see their colleague, and also to see how they can liaise with the Nigerian High Commission ahead of the next appearance of the Ekweremadus in court on July 7th. I think as an expression of solidarity, that is quite commendable.
But in addition to that, the Daily Sun is reporting that the federal government takes steps to hire lawyers for Ekweremadu.
Yes, through the Nigerian High Commission.
What about the young man? Is he not a Nigerian? Only big men they care for? The young man, whether he's 15 or 21, he's a Nigerian. He has a passport.
Yeah, there needs to be a balance across board.
They should also try to take care of him. Not just Ekweremadu. Yes, we sympathize with Ekweremadu, the wife, because we're trying to help their daughter. But what of this young man? He's a Nigerian. He's not a foreigner.
Well, is he not the accuser in this case?
No, but Nigeria as a country should worry about him also.
It's a state matter.
Does he need legal representation?
Yes, it's a state matter. It's the British authorities that will take up the case.
People to court.
But it's not as if he necessarily needs lawyers.
No, but the country should worry about him too. He's a citizen of this country.
Well,
I am not sure about that. It appears that the country, from this solidarity being shown, let me use the government, not the country, has decided to take sides here. So they're not going to take sides with the accuser. And it's not actually the accuser that's, hauled the Ekweremadu to court. That is the Crown.
But somebody should worry about that young man.
I think in all of this, we'll wait till the 7th of July. I think
and get more details.
And get more details as regards this. And I don't think any legal representation will make any big inroad now because the Ekweremadus have got legal representation already. In fact, they've got separate legal representation. Arwin, what's his name again? And Antonia Gray, for...
No, but you can expand the team.
So for both of them.
You can have 50 lawyers.
But most importantly
the government has taken sides here.
Most importantly
they're supporting who they're supporting.
What is important here is that let the courts, rule on this matter. Let justice be done.
Yes.
Let's wait for the 7th of July.
And hear more.
Hear more. So, still taking other stories locally, I think there's a story we must talk about, and it's been burning. And it affects all of us because we are quite local, but it's a national story. The strike in Ogun State by workers.
Shocking.
Very shocking. And what are the things they're asking for? Non-payment of salary and the likes and all of that. And this is not the time for workers to be striking.
Your state and my state of residence.
Yes, this is not the time for workers.
You don't want to leave that out.
No, because we cannot go through this cycle all over again. Somebody called me yesterday, but I have not gone there myself to check. Somebody said that care was not given to some people in the state hospital because of the strike.
Oh, no.
And I feel very sad about
that. Patients were discharged at the general hospital, state general hospital at Shokeno.
You see?
And the pictures are out there. Yes.
And it's a very sad one that, care is not being given to people in the state because you have a strike and we can't sort out our problems.
And not just a strike, an indefinite strike. That's extremely concerning.
So we need to bring it for the Ogun State government needs to do something.
Governor Dapo Abiodun, well, hard-working man, but he has to fix this.
He has to fix it. He must fix it. We can't afford to lose
have civil servants, teachers, medical workers all on strike at the same time. I don't think it's good for his...
I'm aware that
citizens
that the state government is already, engaged in dialogue with the workers, and that's important for grievances to be tabled. One of the things that Governor Dapo Abiodun had to deal with upon assumption of office was, in fact, to pay off arrears.
Yes, backlog.
So it's an inherited problem, but he still has to negotiate, discuss, and make further efforts. And it is not for us to say that workers should not strike at this time.
No.
Workers can strike at any time.
No, of course, whether it's backlog, government is continuing.
They can go on strike at any time. It will fall under the purview of the exercise of their rights. It doesn't concern them whether NNPC is not providing due remittances. It's not their business whether IGR has gone down. The principle is that a worker deserves his wages.
Simple.
Just as we have it in Ogun State, we're living in very difficult times. In the UK, nurses are going on strike. Rail workers, they've gone on strike.
Doctors.
Lawyers, doctors have gone on strike.
Teachers are threatening.
Yeah, and in a very unproductive environment, such as we have in Nigeria, whereby we don't tend to get the parameters right, you are likely to find a worse situation. And the whole lesson is about leadership, governance, as they are learning in Sri Lanka, in a very difficult way, as they are learning in a very difficult way in Lebanon. And I hope those who want to be governors, those who want to be presidents, they should study all of this carefully, knowing that, yes, you may win the election, but when you get there, just as you get the asset of, being in government house, there may also be inherited liabilities. Yeah. And that's why it's important to have a manifesto, to do a SWOT analysis of what you want to go and inherit So that when you get there, you'll be ready. But as we have seen, even in this present political process, those issues hit the ground running in 2023 when they get into office. They are still searching for running mates, like a pin in a haystack. When they get there, if they don't appoint ministers or commissioners for a whole year, are we going to be in a position to blame them?
No, it's good we are seeing it now. It's good we are seeing it now. At least
indecisiveness is never a good trait.
Yeah, just like we are still searching for, anyway, when you even look at it, you can't even make a case because I don't even know who were the framers of this our constitution. The standards are so low.
We need to bin it.
To be a president. So you can't even talk about certificate issue now. The standards are so low to be a president. So, I don't know.
Well, it's more about tradition, culture, standards. In the UK, they don't have a written constitution, but they still manage to keep the country going. Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel.